Hello Internet, and welcome back to my Big Damn TV Geek vlog. As I mentioned in my little blooper reel video last week, which I hope you all enjoyed, this week I want to talk about Marvel's Agent Carter, which just wrapped its first and hopefully not only season last week. Any conversation about this show absolutely begins and ends with its amazing title character, the one and only Peggy Carter. In a world where most superhero TV and movies are still dominated by male superheroes, it was so refreshing to have a comic book-based TV show led by a completely badass female. Hayley Atwell is absolutely fantastic as Peggy. She not only deftly handles all of the actiony, ass-kicking stuff, but is really wonderful with all of the more emotional parts of Peggy's arc over these 8 episodes. Mourning Steve Rogers, Captain America, the sexism at the SSR, which I'll talk more about in a second, getting along with Jarvis. There's a lot of really wonderful stuff in Peggy's arc over the first season, and Atwell handles all of it beautifully. I mentioned the sexism at the SSR because the show takes place in the 1940s, right after the events of the first Captain America movie. A lot of the show dealt with the almost casual sexism that Peggy faced on a day-to-day basis in her life. As much as some of it almost felt cartoony and stereotypical of that period, I really appreciated that the series was willing to tackle it head-on rather than just shrug it off or ignore it. By the end of the season, I felt like it really paid off in a few of the characters' arcs, and they'd really done a nice job with it. Chief Dooley would not give Peggy the time of day in the first couple episodes of the season unless he was asking her for coffee. Again, this is where it's a little bit cartoony, but by the end of the season, he was specifically asking her to make sure Leviathan was brought to justice in his dying moments. Agent Thompson, giant prick for basically the entire season, but he still had his moment when they were in Russia, when he realized, oh shit, this woman is actually a really competent agent. And he opened up to her about his time in the armed services, and no one else knows those things about him. That's a big thing. What was really important about that particular aspect of the show to me, though, is that Peggy never let their opinion matter to her. She never questioned how good of an agent she was. She never let the fact that she was treated like garbage make her feel bad about herself. Society's come a long way since the 1940s. But we still have a long way to go, too, and there's a lot women can learn about watching someone like Peggy Carter just not give a crap about what stupid men think about her. Thankfully, not all of the men in Peggy's life were absolutely terrible people. Probably the most important relationship on the show was the one she had with Edwin Jarvis, Howard Stark's butler turned Peggy's partner in crime. It was an absolute delight to watch their relationship blossom over the course of the season, as they became not only partners, but friends. These are two very different types of people. You have Peggy, who's basically fearless as she's investigating Leviathan and trying to clear Howard's name, and you have Jarvis, who's never been in the field before, and his British uptightness and quippiness, and they verbally sparred with one another in a really terrific way, and the chemistry between Hayley Atwell and James D'Arcy was great. And by the end of the season, you knew these two characters had grown to really care about one another, and that was really great to watch. There was no better example of this than their final scene together, where Jarvis gave Peggy the sample of Steve Rogers' blood, which was just one of the sweetest things ever, and it was a wonderful payoff to that relationship. One of the other things I really liked about Agent Carter, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. might be able to take a couple of notes from this, is that it wasn't super heavy on the tie-ins to other Marvel Universe properties. Sure, we saw the final moments Peggy shared with Steve Rogers in the first Captain America movie, and there was an episode that featured the Howling Commandos, but we weren't beaten over the head with Easter eggs from other Marvel properties. It just got to exist as its own story that focused really tightly on what they were trying to tell us about Peggy Carter. As the Marvel Cinematic Universe continues to expand to more movies and more TV shows, it's going to get harder and harder for Marvel to try and tie everything together in a way that makes sense and isn't super duper complicated. And I hope they're really smart about how they do it, because they risk watering down and ruining properties that could be really strong stories just on their own if they try to tie everything together. So I loved that Agent Carter was allowed to kind of exist as its own thing. I know I didn't talk a ton about the actual storytelling in Agent Carter, but I thought they did a really terrific job with particularly Peggy's arc in this season. Sure, we had our fair share of comic mumbo jumbo over the course of the 8 episodes, you know, Device X is going to blow up New York and that kind of stuff, but Peggy's story was really, really well done. She started the season as a woman in mourning for the love of her life. She lost Steve Rogers. She has no one else in her life. Her job doesn't appreciate her. By the end of the season, the job has completely turned around. They've come to understand what an asset they have at their disposal, or at least appreciate that she is actually an agent and not just a secretary. And she also has people in her life. She has Jarvis, she has Angie, and she's maybe even contemplating dating. They left that slightly open to interpretation with the ask out by Agent Sousa at the end of the episode. So this is a woman moving on from a tragedy, and I think that's a really strong arc to go through, particularly in such a short amount of episodes. So that's my take on the first season of Agent Carter. What did you guys think? Did you enjoy it? Did you not enjoy it? Did you have a favorite episode? Are you hoping it comes back for season 2? Let me know in the comments. As always, please like and share this video. Subscribe to my channel so you can keep on watching my vlogs. You can follow me on Twitter at BigDamnTVGeek, and there's a link to my blog and my Facebook page in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.